Hello there. Welcome into a Thursday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300 or on our new radio home on 740 KVOR. Of course, you could catch the show on any of those two station streaming platforms, including those station apps, which are sponsored by Diversus Health and Mental Health and Wellbeing for all. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Our question today. It's Thursday, but it's going to be a Friday question. Predictions for Broncos Bills. I want them. I need them. Give them to me. We'll post the question on our social media platforms as well. You can answer there if by chance you're watching the show rather than just listening to it. So that's coming up. Then got two guests that I want to inform you of. Corey Roldan of KKTV 11 Sports will join me in the next segment. Talk Broncos Bills. Get a prediction out of him. And then in hour two, Matt Sims, host of Sims Complete, along with his father, Phil, has been a regular guest on this show. And excited to have Matt back on the program to lend his insight, not just into Broncos Bills, but also the rest of the divisional round in the National Football League. Big news out of the NFL regarding coaching. So a lot going on. I said it would be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics. But let's start with the Broncos. And if by chance you were hoping for perhaps a lesser version of Josh Allen coming into Mile High on Sunday, you're not going to get that.
I feel good. Honestly, I feel better than I have the last few weeks. I know it's a Tuesday for us, but on a Wednesday type mindset. So I feel good.
Well, that's slightly disheartening if you're a Denver Broncos fan, that Josh Allen is feeling so good despite the number of supposed maladies that he is suffering from or not suffering from. So it looks like Josh Allen is feeling good going into the game, and that makes Vance Joseph feel not quite as good.
It's certain guys in this league that can take over games, and he's one of those guys. But we knew to win the championship here, it was going to go through Patrick and Lamar and Josh, and Joe Burrow. That's the AFC side, unfortunately. That's where we live. So we knew we got to face one of those guys eventually. So watching Pittsburgh and Baltimore last week, I was cheering for Pittsburgh because I knew that Lamar can wreck your dreams, and so can Josh.
First of all, take that, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, not a wrecker of dreams like Lamar is. Or Josh Allen in this case. But Vance Joseph is right. At some point, the Broncos were going to have to go through one of these guys. There are only 7 playoff spots available, and those guys are usually among them. And what makes, Josh Allen in particular a little scarier of a matchup than maybe some of these other guys is that Josh Allen seems to be somewhat impervious to things that the Broncos have going in their favor. What I mean by that, you can get to him, but can you bring him down? He's more difficult to bring down than maybe some of those other quarterbacks. Certainly Joe Burrow, you can at least say that. He is not, as opposed to a Drake May, coming into an environment that is foreign to him. The guy has played in multiple postseasons, has gone on the road in multiple postseasons. Going into Mile High, or the thought, I should say, of going into Mile High probably does not rattle Josh Allen one bit. And the idea that the game is even being played at 5,280 feet does not bother Josh Allen, who played at about 2,000 feet higher during his college days. Here's Josh Allen on the best way to deal with altitude.
Physically, it's going to challenge you. I think the best thing that we can do, though, is not really talk about it, not really think about it, and not making it a problem. Just going out there and doing our job and getting on the sideline, getting some oxygen if you need it.
Doesn't seem too fazed by any of this, does he? And that's not surprising. But there was something that Sean Payton said the other day that, like many things Sean Payton says, either I roll my eyes at it, or it just gets like lodged somewhere in my brain and I don't quite compute it and get what he's getting at. And then all of a sudden it just kind of, the light bulb comes on. He said that Buffalo is coming off of their biggest win in a decade. And it's like, they've beaten better teams than Jacksonville. They've advanced past the wild card round multiple times. What is Sean Payton talking about? That was the first playoff road win of Josh Allen's career. And why Sean Payton mentioned that was not really about the Bills riding high. Do you think that the Buffalo Bills celebrated that win the way that Sean Payton framed it? Do you think Buffalo media is talking about that is the biggest win in the last 10 years in Buffalo Bills history? No. Because they're looking forward, because it's about what stage of the playoffs they went in, not where they go, and not even who they beat. Right? Beating Patrick Mahomes is that holy grail for the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills didn't pay. I mean, I'm not locked into Buffalo Bills talk 24/7. But if I'm sitting in Buffalo, I'm not spending a ton of time talking about how big that win was against Jacksonville. I'm talking about how great of a win it was in terms of the way they were able to come back in that game and all that kind of stuff. But this team has played on bigger stages. They've met more formidable foes, with all due respect to the Jaguars. But that's not what Sean Payton was talking about. That's not the meaning behind it. I think the meaning behind it was to bring attention to the fact that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills had not been successful on the road. Even though Sean Payton, out of the other side of his mouth, will talk about how it's a myth that home field advantage matters, or whatever he was saying. You know, you guys sift through a lot of, it's like mining for gold. Sean Payton gives you some nuggets, but you guys sift through a lot of other stuff to get to it. Here's the gold nugget in what Sean Payton had to say this week. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills had not won a road playoff game until last week. And as good of a team as Jacksonville is, whatever home field advantage Jacksonville has, it's nothing compared to what the Broncos enjoy. Sean Payton will minimize a lot of stuff. He'll say this doesn't matter and this doesn't matter. But in there will be a defiance. There will be a arrogance almost in what Sean Payton says. But he won't be overt with it. Here's the arrogance. The Buffalo Bills haven't won a road game till last week, and even that environment is nothing compared to what they're going to face on Sunday. There's Sean Payton throwing out a little bit of a nod to you, the fan, to the city of Denver, to Empower Field, and to his team. And quietly behind closed doors, I think he's going to be telling this team, like, look, we respect Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, but they got to respect us too. Because Josh Allen, yeah, you can get to him and he's difficult to sack. This is the best sacking team in the National Football League. They are better at it than everybody else. Yeah, there are other places on the road that the Buffalo Bills may have had to go. You could argue that the place they're going into is the most hostile environment they could possibly have played in this postseason. So, yeah, a lot of things that the Broncos do well, Josh Allen can navigate, can negate. But what Sean Payton is getting at, and what I am getting at, here's the hope that you can have as a Broncos fan. In the face of pass rush like Denver, he hasn't won a playoff game in a place like Mile High. And maybe Josh Allen is built for it. And in fact, I think he is. Because the failures that he has had on the road, have they really been his fault? It's the failure of the Buffalo Bills that they haven't gone to a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. Look at the way that their seasons have ended in the postseason. Not Josh Allen. The guy's consistently thrown on his cape and tried to carry the Buffalo Bills through to a Super Bowl. It's been Sean McDermott. It's been the defense. It's been the officiating. Not Josh Allen. So, yeah, Josh Allen is probably built for facing the Broncos pass rush. He's built for playing at altitude. He's built for going into a hostile environment. The question becomes, is everybody else on that Bills roster? Is that head coach? That's the question, and it goes back to what I said the day after the Broncos season ended. The advantage that the Broncos are going to have against every team in these AFC playoffs is Sean Payton. And going against Sean McDermott, it's not a minimal advantage. So really, when it comes to Sunday, the headline is Josh Allen against the Broncos defense. It's just the fifth time in NFL history that a reigning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year have met in the postseason. By the way, those other ones, Mahomes beat Bosa, Brady beat Aaron Donald, Urlacher beat Sean Alexander, and Joe Green, and the Steelers beat Ken Stabler. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag if you're looking to that to decide which way you're going to go with Josh Allen and Pat Surtain. That's the headline. That's the matchup we're most looking forward to, is seeing how the Broncos defense handles that, as Vance Joseph calls them, a wrecker of dreams in Josh Allen. But where this game might very well be decided when all is said and done is everybody in a Bills uniform not named Josh Allen. Because if recent history is any indication, it's not Josh Allen that has kept the Buffalo Bills from reaching the Super Bowl. It's everybody else. Can the Broncos get the better of everyone else? And then they do their level best against Josh Allen. That may very well decide Saturday's game. So do you think that the Broncos beat everyone else on the Buffalo Bills and win this game? Give me your prediction, 719-24-7-1313. You could also answer the question on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at XTRA Sports 1300. Coming up next, Corey Roldan will be my guest, and we'll get more into this Bills-Broncos matchup. What does he see as the deciding factors one way or another? And then coming up in a little bit, we'll talk John Harbaugh, the first domino in the coaching carousel, domino in a carousel that quite doesn't compute. John Harbaugh is now taking the Giants job. We'll talk about that coming up as well. You're listening to Drive Time Sports on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Just a couple of sleeps away from the Broncos hosting the Bills in the divisional round. And for more on this matchup and a different perspective, I welcome onto the program a man who's been embedded with the Broncos all week, getting the skinny on how they feel about this matchup. He is Corey Roldan of KKTV 11. Is that a fair assessment of what you've been doing this week?
Well, Ryan, this is truly Drive Time Sports because as we speak, we're driving to Empower Field. That's Empower Field right there.
Oh, I see.
For our 30-minute special with your Denver Broncos tonight at 6 o'clock, Mile High Madness on KKTV. But I've been with the Broncos basically this entire week. I feel like the team is healthy. They feel good. And they know the mentality that they have to have on Saturday against a Bills team where they feel like they have to be the more physical football team and bring the boom to the Buffalo Bills.
Does it feel different around the team as opposed to a calendar year ago?
Yes, they feel like they could win. They were kind of they weren't happy to be there last year, but this year they feel like, we can win. We've beaten really good teams all year long. Now, does the Bills pose a threat that we talked about last week where we didn't want to face the Bills? Yes, that's certainly true. They understand what Josh Allen brings to the table. They talked about keeping him in a box almost, keeping him caged in. They talked about how they need to stop the run with James Cook and Josh Allen, win the line of scrimmage. But there is a different feel with this football team.
I just got done talking about, how Josh Allen is, even down to the altitude, is kind of built for, what the Bills are walking into.
Yeah,
Could it be possibly that, as much as we love to bill it this way, Allen versus the Broncos defense, which I've done as much as you have, could it actually be everything else that ultimately decides this game?
100%. Because you're going to have to score offensively, and Bo Nix, they can't get turnovers. Bo Nix in that offense, you can't fumble. I don't think that they can get down early.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to have success on the first, 15, 20 plays of the game, score touchdowns in the red zone, which they haven't done. They need to set up third and manageables as well. So, there's a lot of things about this game other than Josh Allen that are huge. And another thing, too, Broncos country has a huge part on Saturday as well. Ryan, Sean Payton's talked about all week, and it's a staple in New Orleans when he was in New Orleans. You don't start yelling when they break the huddle. That's not going to work. You start yelling when? You start yelling when they go into the huddle so they can't hear the play coming in. That's when you need to start yelling. So it's a lot of fun little parts to this.
He's been successful in that endeavor, right? You've been there. The crowd has taken his advice and has been loud when Sean Payton wants them to be. How about the shell games on the scoreboard? Are those still happening? Because Sean Payton doesn't want those either.
They happen like in the third quarter. They didn't happen in the Chargers, but the Jags and Packers, they were still happening. So I don't know who's doing that, but Sean not like it. He's not a fan.
Corey Roldan, KKTV 11, joining us from Empower Field adjacent, and we'll talk more about the special that he has on tonight on KKTV. Talking about everything else, what is the biggest advantage that the Broncos have with everything else in Sunday's game? What's the one aspect that you're like, this is absolutely going the Broncos' way?
Special teams. I trust Will Lutz. I trust Cradshaw's been really good the second half of the year. Marvin Mims is a difference maker. I feel like you can flip field when you need to. And also Mims can create some spark plays that helps the offense get going. That's the area where I'm like, you know what? Special teams could be a big part of this game. Also, Sean's done this before a couple of times. The Broncos might try to steal a possession or two. So you could see on a 4th and 1 on the Broncos own 40 that they do a fake punt, right? Don't be surprised for any of those plays, because against Josh Allen, if you can't create turnovers because Josh hasn't given up the ball in the playoffs, then you need to find ways to steal possessions in other parts of the game.
Let's play the game of two potential realities following Saturday afternoon. If the Broncos win, what is the conversation we are having starting on Monday?
They should be the favorites to get to the Super Bowl, no matter who wins in the Patriots-Texans game, that the Broncos are there. The Broncos are ready to compete for a Super Bowl this year. And Josh Allen and the Bills just somehow can't find a way to finish the deal, right? It's another year of playoff failure in Buffalo. If they lose, I don't think it's that dramatic. I think Bo Nix is a second-year quarterback. The Broncos already made huge steps to improving this year. So if they lose to Josh Allen and the Bills, they get blown out. That's one thing. If they lose a game, I think, you know what, there's a lot to be proud of with this football team in this year, and you just build off of it.
Now, because I think you're right, but I'll ask this question. If it wasn't Buffalo that they were playing, would you be saying the same thing? Like, let's say they were playing the Steelers this week or the Chargers. Would you be saying the same thing? Because I think because of this, it's the Bills' time, that maybe there are Bronco fans that would be like, you know, if it's that team, then but if it was anyone else, we'd be very upset about it.
I could totally see that, because the Broncos they would have beaten the Steelers, I feel like. Same with the Texans. The Chargers are a team that they've struggled against, but at home in a divisional round playoff game, you should beat the Chargers. It would be disappointing if they would have lost. So I totally agree with you on the aspect of this is mainly because of Josh Allen and the Bills. And you're not at their level yet, and that's okay, because there's steps you have to take to be in a championship football team. And the Broncos have accelerated those steps the last 2 years dramatically. I thought they accelerated their steps last year, and then this year they accelerated them even more. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're still a few steps away, but they're very close to being that level team. There's just a few little things that aren't there yet.
Can I get a prediction out of you, or should we tune in at 6 for that?
No, tune in at 10 a.m. on Saturday for that. We got an hour-long special on. Dude, Ryan, we're busy this week. We got.
Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? I thought you were doing something tonight on KKTV.
We are. We got two shows. We got a show tonight, 6 to 6:30, and then we got an hour-long show on Saturday before the game, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I'm saving my predictions for around 10:55 because I'm being honest, I keep going back and forth. I have my keys to victory for tonight, and I refuse to give my predictions for tonight.
Fair enough. I will demand a prediction out of you when it comes to the other matchup. So if the Broncos win, who are they playing in the AFC Championship?
They're playing the New England Patriots, led by Drake May. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle, kind of like the Patriots-Chargers matchup was, but Drake May in that offense does just enough to beat them.
All right, so 6 o'clock tonight. I guess the big where we need to be thankful is that we don't have the same weather as last week, because now you have more carte blanche. If there was a weather emergency, you wouldn't be getting 2 hours, Corey. You deserve 2 hours. You wouldn't be getting it because it would be storm coverage, right?
I don't know, man. They love so you know what? They like No, dude, go out in the snow and play in the snow and talk about Broncos. I think they would give 2 hours to, and then 2 hours to Broncos. So,
Yeah.
and dude, here's a question for you. I had this argument with people. I think if it would snow, it would actually help the Broncos. They're like, oh, the Buffalo's so used to the snow. No, it wouldn't. I was like, anything to slow down Josh Allen just a little bit would help the Broncos.
Yeah, look, it wouldn't be a massive advantage, but I'm with you. I'm with you. A little bit sloppier track, I think would benefit the Broncos a little bit, but that's where we're at, right, Corey? To your point about how you're going back and forth, man, we're adding up these two columns. Like I think Buffalo has this. Broncos have this, and we're just waiting for that one thing to kind of tip the scales one direction or another. The weather might have done it, but no such luck.
I will say the Broncos are completely healthy. Trey Greenlaw's going to play. Besides J.K. Dobbins, the Broncos are completely healthy. They're going to have everyone back.
Yeah. It's going to be a good one. So 6:00 tonight, watch Corey from Empower Field where he is right now, and then leading up to the game as well on Sunday. Corey, I'll let you get to it. Appreciate the time, man.
Appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see you. That is Corey Roldan, KKTV 11 Sports, joining us here on Drive Time Sports. So 6:00 tonight, 10 a.m. on Sunday, leading up to, or Saturday. What am I saying? Did I say Sunday? Saturday, leading up to the Bills and Broncos game. Because a preview of the Bills and Broncos on Sunday would be weird. I don't like NFL games on Saturday. 719-247-1313. Your predictions for Saturday. Bills, Broncos. I'll take them. Coming up next on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Taking your predictions for Saturday's game, Broncos and Bills. Multiple ways for you to get in. You could text into the show at 719-247-1313, or you could call into the show at the same number, which Dave has decided to do. And I appreciate Dave doing that because I love taking phone calls when they come in. And I love hearing from Dave. Dave, good to hear from you. Been a while. Fire away on the Broncos and Bills on Saturday.
Hey, thank you, and Happy New Year. It's
Happy
been a
New
long
Year.
time since we spoke, but I'm always on the phone. So having said that, and you, as many times as we spoke, you know I'm a homer. But unfortunately, this time I have Buffalo 27-24. Reason being, I think that if we could keep this kid in the pocket, we have a chance. And if there's anybody that could exploit Denver's defense, I think it's Josh. And just a side note from that, I cringe every time I watch him because we could have had him a few years back, but that's a completely different story.
John Elway, did you see, not to derail the conversation, but did you see John Elway talking to Shannon Sharp about this?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if you're on social media, but it's on social. It was on his podcast, and there was a bit of revisionist history going on in terms of John Elway's desire level when it comes to Josh Allen. But anyway, I'll let you go and find that, but continue on.
Okay, and I know we can win it, and I think that's the key. And I'm not sure on Allen's injury status, but I think it's going to be an exciting game. On other notes, I know you're getting ready to talk about the Nuggets. Hey, I'm really excited, but that they're performing the way they are without the Joker. But Ryan, pretty soon we're going to have to decide what we're going to do with Mr. Watson. Now, I haven't heard any conversations there. Do you think that as well as he's playing and NBA Player of the Week and all that, do you think they'll have conversations about moving Christian Braun?
No. I don't think that as tradable as Christian Braun's contract is, I don't think that's a road they're going to go down. Now, I've been talking about this, and I feel like the Nuggets can't afford to give up the flexibility they have earned by trading Michael Porter and by signing Peyton Watson. You can't sign everybody. That's what the Nuggets found out after they won the title, was they can't sign everyone, and they just bled talent after that. There is right now I'm saying either you got to choose Peyton Watson or Aaron Gordon. Now there's an option C, which is if they can figure out the money, and I'm not a capologist, Cam Johnson's contract is up after next season. So I think the ideal path for the Denver Nuggets for most people would be keep Christian Braun, because once he trusts that ankle and that ankle is healthy, Nuggets fans will fall back in love with Christian Braun. Nobody wants to give up Aaron Gordon, and everyone wants to keep Peyton Watson. Cam Johnson doesn't quite garner that level of support from Nuggets fans. I think there's a way here that it ends up being Cam Johnson of this group that the Nuggets have to let go, and I think many Nuggets fans would be okay with that, wouldn't you?
I agree 100% on that. So, hey, my man, when I call you on Monday, I hope I'm eating crow. Enjoy the game, and I will chat with you then.
All right, sounds good, Dave. Be well. Call more often. Dave calling in at 719-247-1313. But here's the one thing about that. Since Dave got me on the topic of the Denver Nuggets. Because just from a personnel standpoint, what I just said, I think most people would sign up for. Keep Brown, keep Gordon, re-sign Peyton Watson, and Cam Johnson you let walk away after next year. Here's the thing, though. If Cam Johnson goes and Peyton Watson slides into that spot, you know what we need to call that position on the Denver Nuggets? The box. Because that's what Michael Porter was in for years. That's what Cam Johnson has struggled to figure out how to operate within that. you see what Peyton Watson is doing. You're like, man, we got to keep this guy. And I agree, and I understand that sentiment. But what is going to be his role moving forward on the Denver Nuggets? Because if it's the Michael Porter role, you're not seeing 30-point-a-game Peyton Watson. It's a very, and I'm questioning whether Peyton Watson can fit into that box. Now, when everyone's healthy again, Peyton Watson, this version of Peyton Watson, is going to be relegated to the bench. I think he should be. I think Cam Johnson should start. But if Peyton Watson is able to figure out, all right, I've kind of unleashed my game here. I've shown everybody what I can do. Now I gotta do it in smaller doses. I'm not going to get all the playing time. I'm not going to be playing with the same guys. And I think that will be a fascinating, as well as Cam Johnson coming back and resuming his first season with the Denver Nuggets, to see how these two guys handle their roles. And maybe that helps make the decision easier on who to move forward with. Now, again, I'm not a capologist, but the way I look at it is you're going to have to get rid of somebody. And if there's a way, because Peyton Watson is a restricted free agent, we've seen the Warriors do this with Jonathan Kuminga to the point that Jonathan Kuminga thinks he can demand a trade out of Golden State, which is hilarious. Can the Denver Nuggets kind of, hopefully not, screw over Peyton Watson at all, but just come to him and say, like, look, here's the situation. We want to keep you long term, but we want to keep this team together for another year. No offers from the outside, because that's the trigger for restricted free agency, right? Is somebody going to offer Peyton Watson a ton of money? We don't know that yet. But let's say nobody does. Then the Nuggets hold all the cards, and they can try and work out a backloaded deal, kind of like with what Aaron Gordon did, to be able to keep the team together. And then Peyton Watson assumes the role of Cam Johnson after Cam Johnson's contract expires. I just don't see a way where everyone stays. And by everyone, I mean, don't forget Tim Hardaway. Don't forget Jonas Valanciunas. So this is where Ben Tenzer, being the cap guy, comes in handy, because he's going to have to do some cap gymnastics to even keep this team together for next year. But I think I've been diving into this with my limited knowledge of the salary cap. I think if they can sign Peyton Watson at a lower rate year one without anybody interfering and offering him a big deal. Remember, who is that? Clint Capella. That Daryl Morey came in and offered some like ridiculous like year one, it was like super cheap, and then year two, it was like quadruple. Like, he built a contract to make it so the team that had him couldn't sign him. They couldn't make it work. Does somebody do that with Peyton Watson? I don't know. A 2-week stretch is not enough for me to say somebody will. But if nobody offers Peyton Watson a ton of money, because nobody offered Josh Giddey a huge contract, nobody offered Kuminga a contract. So if that happens, then the Nuggets have the flexibility to be able to say, all right, here's what we're willing to do. You're a part of our future, but right now, we got to keep this thing together. And can you meet in the middle like that, given that Peyton Watson is loading up for a big payday because he hired Rich Paul? So there's a lot of questions surrounding the future of Peyton Watson, but it does seem to me that there's a path here to where Peyton Watson stays long-term, not at the expense of Christian Brown or Aaron Gordon, but of Cam Johnson. I'll keep you posted on my findings. Let's get back to some of your texts regarding the Broncos game on Saturday. This from the 719. This is Josh Allen's 8th year in the league, and he's only 3 years older than Nick's. Nick's is who he is. The Bills are going to destroy the Denver Broncos. I don't know if my prediction is destroy. I'm holding firm on the Bills are going to win on Saturday. And I started the show by talking about how, as much as we want to bill it Allen versus the Broncos defense, in many ways, it's going to be everything else that I think decides it. And that's where, specifically to you, the texter's point, Bo Nix against this very good pass defense of the Buffalo Bills. We know Allen is the biggest advantage Buffalo has. But can the Broncos make up the ground everywhere else? I don't know that they can. I don't think it ends up being a blowout. But that's kind of where I tip the scales in Buffalo's favor. This from the 719. I think if the Broncos can establish a run game early, the altitude will get the best of the Bills' defense. Broncos by 4. That from Scott and Florissant. You know, it's funny that you bring up the altitude. Josh Allen, I played the clip earlier. I'll just play it for you again. Here's Josh Allen when asked about the altitude. Remember, he played at well over 7,000 feet above sea level in college. Here's his advice for handling altitude.
Physically, it's going to challenge you. I think the best thing that we can do, though, is not really talk about it, not really think about it, and not making it a problem. Just going out there and doing our job and getting on the sideline, getting some oxygen if you need it.
I'm not saying that Josh Allen is a scientist or medical personnel, but I feel like I feel like so much of the altitude thing is also between the ears. And that's Josh Allen saying, like, let's not make this a bigger deal than what it is. Is it a thing? Sure. But last time I checked, the Denver Broncos are not unbeaten at home over the last 20 years. Teams have come in and dealt with altitude just fine. I think Josh Allen's got it right. Let's not make something that is a small part of Saturday's game into a bigger part than it needs to be by talking about it or making a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be. And then either earlier in the day or right after Josh Allen got done speaking, here was his head coach on altitude.
I'm a believer that it's real. So you hear a lot of different things about it, but at the end of the day, we've got to manage it in order to play a winning level of football for ourselves.
I'm not saying you have to be an altitude denier. I find it funny that Josh Allen's like, let's not talk about it. And then Sean McDermott gave credence to the idea that altitude impacts you. He didn't make a huge deal out of it. I just thought that was kind of funny. Allen's like, let's not talk about it. And Sean McDermott proceeds to talk about it. But I think to your point, Scott, this is the fast start part. There's the fast start because you can't fall behind against Buffalo, right? You just can't. Josh Allen isn't going to make enough mistakes for you to climb back in the game. You have to start fast for that reason. That's a neutral field. That's anywhere against Josh Allen or just in the playoffs in general. Very difficult to rally from behind in a playoff game. But Sean Payne also talks about the fast start because of altitude. And that gives the Broncos a chance to perhaps with the run game wear down the Bills defense, which Josh Allen is not a part of. 719-24-7-1313. More Drive Time Sports coming up. Welcome in hour 2 on this Thursday. Appreciate you tuning into the show, and like to say a hi to those of you watching the show on our social media platforms, whether it be at Extra Sports 1300 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or at 740 KVOR on those platforms as well. While you're there, like, subscribe, follow, and most importantly, drop a comment, because this is an interactive experience. Of course, there are other ways to get in touch with the program. We like to provide many avenues so we can hear from you. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313. The conversation today, our question of the day, let's just get this out. We've talked so much about this matchup. Let's just get to the predictions, right? I know Friday's tomorrow. I don't care. Predictions today. Who you got, Bills, Broncos, and what ultimately decides the game. And to that end, my feeling is that as much as we want to build this Josh Allen versus Broncos defense, and certainly one cannot run roughshod over the other and their team expect to win, right? Josh Allen can't dominate the Denver Broncos and them expect to win. And the Broncos defense can't dominate Josh Allen and the Bills expect to win. But as long as that is, a tug of war with what I think Josh Allen probably gets the better of it. But if the Broncos can get the better of everything else, that could tip the scales in their favor. I just don't know that they can, and that's why I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. Your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Aaron calling in wants to give his thoughts on the Broncos and Bills. Aaron, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? Great show again.
Thanks.
I thought I'd chime in. I mean, usually we're talking in the background, but it's a new gig now.
It's a brave new world on this radio program, Aaron. But glad to have you a part of it.
And I think it's a great thing for Colorado Springs local radio in the afternoon. But anyway, you can't take Josh Allen out of the game, but we need to do what we can to minimize him. And I thought he looked pretty sore last week. I think we challenge him right away to run the ball and get some good wax on him and properly welcome him to Denver, and let's see if he really is healthy.
No, I think that's a great point, Aaron. And thanks for calling. Call more often as you do. I don't have to tell you, you're a regular caller, and I appreciate you for that. It's difficult. And Greg Williams, I think I said Greg Robinson yesterday. Greg Robinson used to coach for both the Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why the name was in my head. Greg Williams was the defensive coordinator during Bountygate. Nobody is suggesting that. Okay, but it's a reality of football that part of your goal is to inflict as much punishment as you can. It's just the way the game is played. Right? So no one is suggesting that the Broncos should take any cheap shots at Josh Allen or figure out what part of him is the most hurt and alter the way that they tackle him in order to affect that area. It's just you hit him and you keep hitting him. And to Aaron's point, if you can cover well enough in the secondary and rush him well enough that he has to take off running, that gives you more opportunities to hit him. And you test whether Josh Allen is truly feeling the way he says he's feeling.
I feel good. Honestly, I feel better than I have the last few weeks I know it's a Tuesday for us, but on a Wednesday type mindset. So I feel good.
Broncos need to change that. Regardless of whether Josh Allen is dealing with injuries or not. Even if he's perfectly healthy, the game plan doesn't change. That's the thing. It's just you want to make sure that you're quick to point out that you're not headhunting here. That's not what anybody is calling for. The guy hit him. Welcome him to Denver, as Aaron pointed out. and see if he holds up. My guess is, or it's more than a guess because I've watched enough Josh Allen football to know, he'll probably be fine on the outside. You won't notice how hurt he is because this guy is just, he's a beast. But you have to get to him. You have to hit him. You have to try. 719-24-7-1313. Ben checking in says, I think the key to this game is for Denver to have long, drawn-out drives, running the ball and getting Bo Nix outside of the pocket and using his legs for the first down. The more they can keep Josh Allen on the sidelines, the greater their odds of winning increases. And I think that's the key to the game. And Ben, could not agree with you more. And I'll just add on top of it what you're saying, because you're right about keeping Josh Allen on the sideline. That's probably the better bet than allowing Josh Allen to be on the field quite a bit and taking your chances that way. But also running the football is a thing that the Buffalo Bills don't like teams to do against them. The biggest weakness of this Bills team is their run defense. So the Broncos would be silly not to exploit it, and it is very much within what they do normally to run the football and to be committed to it. And that's the thing. Sean Payton's got to stay committed to it. And he said this about the way that teams are playing them defensively. He said it himself. You have to be more committed to the run game. And I think it's Sean Payton saying it out loud so he commits it to his head. Because remember, he writes run it on the top of his play sheet and he ignores it. So he's got to do as much as he can to keep it in his mind that he's got to stay committed to the run. Because it exploits the biggest weakness of this Buffalo Bills team. To Ben's point, it keeps Josh Allen off the field. And it keeps Bo Nix from having to throw it, which I don't believe is a recipe for success for the Denver Broncos if Bo Nix is trying to go throw for throw with the reigning MVP. This coming in from the 571. Altitude is between your ears as long as your ears are at 6,000 feet. No one is denying that altitude has an impact. But Josh Allen's point is, and what I'm piggybacking on, is you can make things that are factors into huge factors that don't need to be. Altitude does not, will not, should not decide this game. It can help in a small way decide the game. Again, to Ben's point about running the football, keeping the Bills defense on the field, wearing them out, altitude comes into play there. There's a happy medium for teams coming into altitude between, ignoring it, which you can't do. You can't ignore it or else it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. But also you don't want to make it everything. Because it doesn't have to be. Teams have gone into Ball Arena and beaten the Avalanche and beaten the Denver Nuggets and gone into Empower Field and beat the Broncos. And teams that play baseball at 5,280 feet visiting from elsewhere are as comfortable, if not more so, than the team that actually lives at 5,280 feet. But that might be a little bit a different circumstance. The point is, there have been many teams that have won at altitude, and the Bills can be that team again. But with everything else you have to worry about, Pat Surtain, the Broncos pass rush, Sean Payton, the crowd noise, all of this kind of stuff, why would you make something a bigger deal than it needs to be? That is the point that Josh Allen is making. But for anyone that says altitude isn't real, no, it's real. And for the Broncos, it's spectacular. 719-24-7. 1313. Brett. Perhaps this would be great content for your show. The Buffalo Bills win the AFC Championship and go to the Super Bowl and can win the Super Bowl with a field goal to end the game, and it hits the upright. Better yet, it hits the upright, right upright, ricochets, and hits the left upright. That should give you a couple of weeks of fun stuff to talk about. Actually, it won't be. It won't be, because this is a local sports show. We would move it on to what the Broncos need to do. Here's what happened in the Super Bowl. Here's what the Broncos need to do to get there. I know what you're doing. This was, for those of you who don't know, Brett asked me what I would rather have happen, what I am rooting for to happen. And I am someone that roots for content. I don't want a dud of a football game that I have nothing to talk about. The better story is Josh Allen and the Bills win the Super Bowl. Not Josh Allen and the Bills beating the Broncos, but Josh Allen and the Bills winning the Super Bowl. And that's why I said that if the Bills are going to beat the Broncos, like, I'm the last person that anyone should care about what I want to happen or what I hope happens on Saturday. But since the question was asked, for my own selfish purposes, if Buffalo's going to win this game, they better win the whole thing. Because for Buffalo to come into Denver and win and just go to Foxborough next week and lose, that would be lame. But don't you have that sense, though, all joking aside right now, doesn't it feel like the winner of this game is going to go to the Super Bowl? Doesn't it feel that way? I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect the Patriots or the Texans, who are both terrific teams. But doesn't it feel that way? And look, I was already on record last week saying that I think the winner of the Jacksonville-Buffalo game is going to go to the Super Bowl. And I still feel that way. I watched the Buffalo Bills play in that football game, and I said, yeah, that's a team that can go to the Super Bowl. So nothing changed my mind watching Buffalo play last week. But for the Broncos, I feel like it's almost like they're getting the final boss like a stage early. Like they're going up against Bowser, and then on the other side of it, they have something else. Like, it feels like if the Broncos beat Buffalo with everything that Buffalo has, which is, the weight of history, which is maybe people's rooting interest are on their side, and it's Josh Allen, and it's the experience and all this kind of stuff that Buffalo has going for it. I mean, if the Broncos get past this, and most importantly, how problematic of a matchup I think Buffalo is for Denver. If they get past this, I kind of feel like regardless of who wins in Foxborough on Sunday, I think the Broncos beat them at Mile High next week. And the Patriots one is easy because Drake May, for the first time in his career, would be going on the road. But even Houston, I feel like, coming into Denver, I feel like I'd probably take the Broncos, having beaten Buffalo. Take your thoughts on that too. 719-24-7-1313. Do you feel that if, let's just say Denver, because that's what we're more concerned with. If Denver wins this game, do you feel like regardless of who comes out of the other game, the Broncos are going to go to the Super Bowl? (719) 24/7 1313. Coming up next, Matt Sims of Sims Complete NFL Network Radio. The man is all over the place, and he is kind enough to join me on the show, and he will do that next here on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR.
Mark dabbling, and over there at Peterson Road at Palmer Park. Everything else, for the most part, slowing down. It's time to
Who you got on Saturday, Broncos or Bills? We are going through it today on Drive Time Sports, 719-24-7, 1313. I also threw in another question that I'd be curious your thoughts. Does it feel like the winner of Saturday's game is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? Bills, because maybe you already feel like the Bills were going to come out of the AFC, but just that they've gone and knocked off the number 1 seed and the number 3 seed. And yeah, they probably have the number 2 seed coming up. And then the Broncos and Ray Dominguez producing today put it another way, like the Bills kind of feel like the boogeyman, right? I said final boss, take your pick on the metaphor, but the idea is this is the matchup that you have to admit deep down you didn't want right away because you know of everything I am speaking of, right? Doesn't mean that you think that the Broncos can't beat the Bills, and nor am I saying that it's impossible. But this feeling of there's so much that comes along with the Buffalo Bills. It's history. It's a reigning MVP. It's the team that so many people say, well, without Mahomes and without this, it's got to be Buffalo, right? Well, if the Broncos knock off that team, then what can be said? So I'm throwing that out there, too, to see what you think. 719-24-7, 1313. This from the 719. Broncos will beat the Patriots. No way they beat Houston. It's interesting. Now, there are a lot of similarities between the Broncos and the Texans. In fact, Josh Allen was asked a series of questions at his availability this week about how similar Denver and Houston's defense are. And it's easy, and I don't think it's completely incorrect. You have a terrific pass rush duo, and then just a great pass rush period. Like you talk about Hunter and Anderson for Houston, and you mostly talk about Cooper and Benito as edge rushers, but then, of course, there's Zach Allen, and the Texans have other guys that can rush the passer, and then you have a shutdown corner in Pat Surtain or Derek Stingley. So there have been similarities there. It has to be the defense, right? I mean, if that would what you would have to base it on. You can't say that the Broncos would beat Buffalo and then C.J. Stroud would get the better of them. Not to diminish C.J. Stroud, but he's not better than Josh Allen. In no universe is he better than Josh Allen. So if you're saying that, you have to be saying Houston's defense is going to dominate the Broncos offense. And I think that's a valid argument. I still feel like Denver gets it done if they get past Buffalo. But that is a big if, because I'm not taking them to beat Buffalo. This coming in from the 719. This is from Dave. I have a feeling that whoever wins Saturday will be playing the Texans. That defense is unstoppable right now. So we have a couple of votes for Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend, and putting on that Longhorn mascot head. And I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion, but I feel like the winner of this game on Saturday, I'm taking them over New England or Houston. I just don't see a scenario in which I think lesser of either team based on them winning on Saturday. In fact, I'd probably feel even more bullish. The only scenario in which I think I can get on board with taking Houston over either Buffalo or Denver is if they absolutely dominate New England. And that's not just the defense. right? Did you see the way that CJ Stroud played? Like, that guy has to dominate the New England defense too. Yeah, I feel I'm going to, barring something that I cannot foresee, I think the winner of Saturday's game is representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. This coming in from the 719, Texans versus Rams in the Super Bowl. I'll just, since we're opening up the conversation, allow me to chime in, if I may. I have Buffalo beating Denver. I have, and this is probably why we're on two opposite sides of this, I don't even think that the Broncos play Houston next week if they win. I think New England beats Houston. Now, I will say that is the game I am least confident in, because I have a degree of confidence in all of my picks. That would be the one that I'm the least confident in. So I will say that, but I think New England wins. And then on the other side, I think the game I'm most confident in is LA beating Chicago. Been a great run for the Bears. I don't see the Rams imploding in the way that Green Bay did. I mean, Brandon McManus in the defense, let's be specific here. Jordan Love and the offense kind of did what they were supposed to do. So I'm I'm picking the Rams over the Bears, and I'm the most confident in that pick. I think the game I'm the second most confident in would actually be Denver-Buffalo. Then it would be San Francisco, and I have San Francisco beating Seattle. And the reason why that would be the game other than Houston and New England that I am the least confident in is because I know that this ride that we are on with the 49ers, maybe not we, but the ride that the 49ers are on, there's a tipping point here with San Francisco to where, one injury is going to be too much for even them to overcome. Is that George Kittle? I'm going to say no, but it could be. So I don't think I see San Francisco. No, I shouldn't say that. I could see San Francisco win the whole thing, but I feel like there can be some point here where these injuries reach critical mass and Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey, and maybe it's an injury to Christian McCaffrey, and even the 49ers can't deal with it. But yeah, I got Buffalo over Denver, New England over Houston, San Francisco over Seattle, and LA over Chicago. Also, and you know me, I don't like to be negative, but if I were to be negative for just a moment, Sam Darnold. That's also part of why I'm picking the 49ers. As good as he was last year in the regular season for Minnesota, look at him in the playoffs. So that aspect of Sam Darnold has not completely gone away from him. He's clearly much better than the quarterback that he was in New York. We could say that, and credit to him, but Purdy, Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey, Saleh, I'll ride with that group against Darnold, McDonald, and that Seattle team. So we'll open it up. primarily, I want Bills Broncos, your prediction for that, of course. But if you want to open it up and talk about the other 3 games, I'm here for it. Also, big news out of the NFL. The first job has been filled across the NFL, and it is probably because Mike Tomlin's not taking a job this offseason. The biggest name off the market. What about that fit? 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports coming up next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Prediction day here on Drive Time Sports. Who you got, Broncos or Bills? And if you want to chime in on the rest of the divisional round, please, by all means, 719-247-1313. Mr. Ed wants to chime in here. I'm assuming Broncos, Bills, Ed, is the primary topic of conversation. Pleasure to have you again.
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, Bills, Broncos. I hate to say, you're going with the Bills, but I just think, when you have two teams that are like evenly matched, which I think this game is, I always think back to, cause I'm an old fart, I'm 60 plus. And Bobby Bowden always said, the great Florida State team, he said, when you get two teams that are so evenly matched, generally what it comes down to is special teams or a turnover. And he goes, there'll be a field goal made or somebody's going to fumble, but he goes, it's usually special teams. And I often think about that, and darn if he isn't right on a few games that are evenly matched. So I love my Broncos, and I think it will come down to a field goal, but I often think about that. But I think it's going to be a good game.
Oh, it's going to be phenomenal. That we can all agree on. I think this weekend of football and last weekend of football was phenomenal. I think this one has the chance to do it as well. Thank you, Mr. Ed. Call more often. Love to hear from you at 719-247-1313. And what he brings up about Bobby Bowden, like that's the way that Sean Payton thinks. Right? Sean Payton has that mindset too. Right? He always talks about what is basically winning on the margins. Right? The not being the most penalized team late in the game or the kicking game and all this kind of stuff. Bobby Bowden, I don't know if Sean Payton has never gone on a 5-minute story hour talking about Bobby Bowden, but I think they have the same mentality, and I think it very well could come down to that. And that might make you confident if you're a Broncos fan, shouldn't it? This team has repeatedly shown that if a game comes down to the margins, they can win. If a turnover is the thing, though, that's what's going to be really interesting. Because the Broncos, in the more macro view, don't create turnovers. But all of a sudden, they get a couple against Green Bay. They're able to force some turnovers. Chargers, Kansas City, does this version of the Denver Broncos that sit here today getting ready to play the Bills, are they better at creating turnovers than the team that existed a month and a half ago? It's possible. But if you're banking on the Denver Broncos creating a turnover when they absolutely have to, or just asking the question, which team do you think will turn the ball over at the most crucial time? Which team was that? Which quarterback is that? But to Ed's point, look, we do this all the time. There's something who saw Brandon McManus missing multiple kicks? Who saw the Steelers-Ravens game on Sunday night before we even got to the playoffs coming? There will be something. That's one of my predictions outside of the result. There will be something that happens. There will be a player that factors into the equation that we didn't expect to. There will be something that happens that we didn't expect. And it may tip the scales one direction or another. I think that's why we love sports, if I recall. This coming in from Albert, put my money on the Rams and Bills in August. Ooh. I think I was having a conversation with someone today that pressed me on who I think is going to be in the Super Bowl, and that's exactly what I said. So, Albert, I would cash out right now because I just gave your bet and my prediction the big old smooch of death. I think that was a good call by you. Regardless, I mean, we're sitting here with 8 teams left, and you have 2 of the teams. Since everyone's favorite aspect of this program is when I dog on myself, if you recall, I had the Kansas City Chiefs and Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, so if only I had a crystal ball, right? Which breaks my streak of I usually get one team right. And of course, that's been usually the Chiefs, but not anymore, or not this year anyway. This coming in from the 719 on the Broncos-Bills game. Before we even get into the game, Ryan, we've already made them one-dimensional. They have 3 receivers that are coming into the game. That's it. I think people are going to be really surprised at how the Broncos come out in this playoff. Every time the Broncos have had a number 1 seed in their history, they've gone to the Super Bowl 6 out of 8 times. The way you worded that was a little Brian Fantana-y. You said every time the Broncos have the 1 seed, they make the Super Bowl 6 out of 8 times. 70% of the time, it works every time. That is part of the equation here for Sunday, and it's a big conversation up in Buffalo. They're just, Josh Allen, you can't kill the guy. I mean, he just get, I hit my hand on somebody's helmet. Oh, it's probably broken in 8 places. That's okay. I'll just gain 7 yards on a QB sneak. Like, no big deal. Like, Josh Allen can suffer 3, 4, 5 injuries and still keep going. Meanwhile, half of the Bills wide receiver core is hurt. Like, just now, just simultaneously, gone. Gabe Davis but here's the thing. Still have the 2 tight ends. Still have Khalil Shakir. If we're looking for an X factor in this game, and I'll actually say on both sides, because I think both teams have a player in this vein, Khalil Shakir, but also Marvin Mims. How about this being kind of a Marvin Mims game? You heard Corey Roldan join me in hour number 1 talking about special teams. Maybe this is a game where Sean Payne can involve Marvin Mims a little bit on those end arounds. Maybe some screens. I know screen is a dirty word in Broncos country, but hey, you got to have the entire playbook available to you. So you're right. Like, Josh Allen has fewer options than he did even a week ago, but Josh Allen for the last 2 years has had fewer options than he has for most of his time in Buffalo and still has made do being an MVP. And beating Baltimore and getting a playoff spot this year and beating Jacksonville. So it's part of it for sure. But I don't think it makes Buffalo one-dimensional. And even if it makes Buffalo one-dimensional, that one dimension is a problem for the Denver Broncos. The run game of Buffalo is a problem for Denver. Now, if they can key on it, that helps. I don't think that we could throw it in the mix here, but Josh Allen has made do with a dearth of playmakers around him in the passing game for a couple years now. And they still have some. This from the 719. I'm going to call it right now, Ryan. Everybody listen. We're going to sack him, being Josh Allen, 6 times. Or maybe he did not specify. This could be the Bills sacking Bo Nix 6 times. I'm not sure. I think it's Broncos. I'm kidding. I'm going to call it right now, Ryan. We're going to sack him 6 times. He's going to throw 2 interceptions and fumble. One of the interceptions might be a pick 6. Wouldn't that be something? And that wouldn't that be a sign of how much the Broncos have improved from the beginning? How much better they even are than they have been for much of the season if they turn over Josh Allen multiple times? Then I really, I mean, you guys are trying to talk me off of my my opinion that the winner of Saturday's game is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. If the Broncos turn over Josh Allen 3 times, including a pick 6, how could you not feel like the Denver Broncos can do something similar to C.J. Stroud and get to a Super Bowl? Albert chiming back in on his Rams-Bills bet. He says he's had the Bills the last 3 years. Understandable. It's almost like if we could 100% predict sports, it wouldn't be nearly as much fun. And also my favorite city in America, maybe outside of this one, Las Vegas, wouldn't exist. And I don't want to think of a world like that. I like Las Vegas, and in a weird way, I like sometimes not being 100% right all the time. Keeps it interesting. Texture comes back in, the one predicting multiple turnovers. Watch, Benito, Zach Allen, and company are licking their chops to get after it. Trust me, Vance will dial up psycho blitzes. Oh, I have no doubt that the Broncos are going to be able to get to Josh Allen. What happens then is what is fascinating. What will be fascinating to find out. I have no doubt that the Denver Broncos will be able to get to Josh Allen on a regular basis even. But even Sean Payton talked about this yesterday. I think I played this audio. One of the lesser talked about superpowers that Josh Allen has is his ability to create not just plays out of pressure, but big plays. Like his ability to, even when he is under heavy pressure, still be able to look downfield and find a guy open and throw it 20 or 30 yards down the field. He is terrific at that. So getting to Josh Allen, one thing, making that be the end of a play and a win for the Denver Broncos, that's going to be that's the thing. And that's what we're all going to tune in to find out on Saturday. One more text in, and then we'll take a break. This from the 719. What makes that texter think they'll have 2 interceptions against the MVP? This defense doesn't create turnovers. Well, that and the fact that Josh Allen in 14 playoff games now has thrown 4 picks. I would respectfully disagree with the idea that the Broncos are going to create 3 turnovers on Saturday. But I'll say this. If they create 1, forgive me for, I'm sounding like Doctor Strange here, putting up the one finger. It might just be 1 turnover is all they need. Think Pat Surtain against the Green Bay Packers. Maybe it's just that 1 to keep Buffalo from double dipping going into the half and coming out of the half. Maybe it's 1 to get the ball back to the offense to be able to drive down the field and win the game. Like, it may only take 1 if it is well timed. And that's something that, even though the Broncos overall have struggled to create turnovers, they have had a knack. And number 2 on the Denver Broncos defense has had quite the knack of making not just picks, but game-changing interceptions. I mean, he is the defensive player of the year overall. It may not take 3. 3 would probably do it, though. If they turn Josh Allen over 3 times, I will sit here and guarantee you that the Denver Broncos win that game. 719-247-1313. I'll let I got 40 seconds. One more response, then we'll call it. Be done. Get to what's driving the show. Ryan, I think your audience fails to realize what happens when a defense can pin its ears back and they know all you can do is run the ball. They're going to cage rush. They're going to force Josh Allen to make plays out of the pocket. Watch. Yeah, but Josh Allen's good out of the pocket. Like, I get everything you're saying. You're not – the 3 turnovers thing is a bit much. Like, even you have to admit. Everything else you're saying, I'm with you. It makes sense. But Josh Allen is comfortable in those situations. Josh Allen can make plays. We'll see you on Saturday. Drive Time Sports continues next. Hello there. Welcome into hour 3 on this Thursday. It is my pleasure to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300 or our new radio home 740 KVOR. Of course, if you stream those radio stations either through their website or their apps, which are sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health and Wellbeing for All, you can also listen to the show there. In fact, I usually listen to those two stations via the app. And if you want to take your participation to the next level, up to you. We'd love to have you. Got a few phone calls today, a lot of texts, more texts that I will get to over the course of the hour. 719-247-1313. That number works to call or to text. And perhaps you have a thought or two on these, which are the 3 stories that are driving the show. All right, let's start with the Wrecker of Dreams. Here's Vance Joseph.
It's certain guys in this league that can take over games, and he's one of those guys. But we knew to win a championship here, it was going to go through Patrick and Lamar and Josh, and Joe Burrow. That's the AFC side, unfortunately. That's where we live. So we knew we got to face one of those guys eventually. So watching Pittsburgh and Baltimore last week, I was cheering for Pittsburgh because I knew that Lamar can wreck your dreams, and so can Josh.
Yep. Got to go through one of these guys at least if you're going to get to a Super Bowl. Again, I can't get over how much shade he just threw at Aaron Rodgers, but it's all right. He's retiring. It's not a big deal. Yeah. The Broncos defense absolutely is facing its toughest test. Josh Allen on a playoff stage. This is the most difficult test. But what I will say, and Sean Payton mentioned the other day how the Bills had won their biggest game in 10 years against Jacksonville, and it's not because of the opponent or the round it came in. It was because it was on the road, something that the Bills had not done with Josh Allen. Win on the road. So what was Sean Payton getting at there? Let's combine it with what Vance said. This is the toughest test Josh Allen has faced. Can we say that in terms of a defense? I think that you can say that. And it's why I said earlier in the week of the things that would worry me the most if I'm a Broncos fan, and of course Josh Allen has to be one of those 3. I think that the Broncos have more to be able to defend Josh Allen than they do to defend some of these other things, to negate some of these other advantages that I see Buffalo having on Saturday. The Broncos have an elite corner. They have the best pass rush in the league that set a franchise record for sacks. They have a lot. I don't know if it's everything they need to stop Josh Allen, because they may need to do the thing that Shannon Sharp did all those years ago and call up the National Guard. But, man, I can't think of a defense that Josh Allen has gone up against on the road, no less, with as much as the Denver Broncos. So I think that's going to be closer to a stalemate than maybe some people would like to believe. The discourse throughout the week, and even just in the last segment, is either the Broncos are going to dominate or the majority of people, Josh Allen's going to dominate. I don't think either is true. I think that's going to be a phenomenal tug of war back and forth. Here comes Nick Bonito. Can he get Josh Allen down? Or Josh Allen steps up in the pocket. Can Surtain pick him off? That's the headline, is Josh Allen versus the Broncos defense. And that's why I think it might be everything else that actually decides this football game. It may be how Bo Nix performs against the Bills defense more than Josh Allen against the Broncos defense. I think Vance Joseph has all the tools at his disposal to try and limit Josh Allen as well as anybody has been able to limit Josh Allen in a playoff game. So if that in some way cancels each other out, now we look at everything else. And I still look at the run game, which Josh Allen is a part of, but James Cook is a bigger part of. Say, don't like that matchup still. And I really don't like the matchup of Bo Nix and the Broncos offense going up against this Bills pass defense. So in the end, because today is Prediction Thursday, TM, I'm taking the Bills over the Broncos. But I think it is shortchanging the Denver Broncos to just keep saying they've never faced a test like Josh Allen. While that is true, I don't know that Josh Allen has faced a defense like this in the postseason. And it will be, as the kids say, absolute cinema on Saturday afternoon. Speaking of absolute cinema, this guy has been pretty good as of late for the Denver Nuggets. Topic number 2.
I don't know. I guess it just, I don't know, gets me to the All-Star game and makes everybody have to have a different narrative.
I hope that Jamal Murray really gets excited about something in his life. Because it's certainly not a lot of stuff that we care about. Jamal Murray last night, after another 30-point game and another Denver Nuggets win without the best player on planet Earth, Jamal Murray asked what it would mean to him to be an all-star. That is so Jamal Murray, that answer. But it was thought-provoking, though. What would be the narrative if Jamal Murray were to make an all-star? Because we have to be honest that part of the legend of Nikola Jokic, the mystique around Nikola Jokic, is the fact that you can say, well, he never had an all-star teammate. Never had a teammate make an all-star game. Well, Russell Westbrook was all-star, and that doesn't count. Which I agree, it doesn't. It's part of the Jokic mystique, is that he's doing this with a lesser cast of characters. So what's the narrative going to be? One, that Jamal Murray is an all-star, and I think that's what Jamal is getting at. You can't say I'm not an all-star if I'm going to become an all-star. Find a different narrative. But I also think it's the idea that now Nikola Jokic isn't doing this by himself. And that has to be one of the big takeaways of this stretch without him. When he comes back, yes, he's still the most important guy by a mile. And they're not advancing in the playoffs without Nikola Jokic playing like the best player in the world. But he's not doing it alone. And it's not even just that it's him and Jamal Murray. It's him and Jamal Murray at a higher level. A higher form of Jamal Murray, if you will. And then you throw in the depth because, again, they come through last night and get another win. Tim Hardaway, Peyton Watson, the whole group there. When Jokic comes back and Jamal Murray makes an all-star team, because it will be one of the dumbest things to happen in the NBA in a long time, and the list is long of potential dumbest things that have happened in the NBA. Jamal Murray not making an all-star game would be one of them. It's silly. There is no argument against him. And I haven't been somebody banging the drum to say Jamal Murray should be an all-star every year. I think Aaron Gordon's flirted with all-star status, but I don't think I've mentioned one nugget outside Nikola Jokic that I thought should be an all-star. Jamal Murray is playing at an all-star level. So what's the narrative when he makes this all-star game and Nikola Jokic comes back? The narrative is Nikola Jokic is not doing it by himself, and shouldn't that be a sobering thought across the NBA? How long has the conversation around beating the Denver Nuggets be, well, Jokic is going to do his thing, but we could stop everybody else. Can you? With this iteration of the Denver Nuggets, with this iteration of Jamal Murray? And I think you're seeing it. If you notice around the NBA mediascape, there are more and more people chiming in saying, I'm not so sure that, with all due respect to OKC, Denver's not the best team in the West fully healthy, which, of course, by extension means they're the best team in basketball. We have not talked a lot about Nikola Jokic not having to do it by himself. He had to do it by himself while Jamal Murray was hurt for basically 2 years. And while it would be an exaggeration to say he had to do it by himself last year, there's more. The Nuggets have more to help him out than they ever have before. Ever. We can debate the depth of this team and whether it's better than the bubble team. This is the best version of the Denver Nuggets. Top to bottom, maybe ever. If they are fully healthy. We've never seen Jamal Murray play at this level. We know what Nikola Jokic is, what Aaron Gordon means to this team, the way that Peyton Watson is playing, and the addition of Tim Hardaway and Jonas Valanciunas. This might be fully healthy, the best version of the Denver Nuggets in their history. And I think that is a realization that people are starting to come to. That is the narrative now, or will be the narrative once Jokic is back and Jamal Murray rightly goes to LA as an all-star. Nuggets win another one without Nikola Jokic last night over the Dallas Mavericks. We go back to the NFL for story number 3. The first coaching vacancy has been filled, and it's by the biggest name on the market. If you believe that Mike Tomlin is not on the market, John Harbaugh has reportedly agreed to become the next head coach of the New York Giants. And for the Giants, this is a massive coup. Anybody that got John Harbaugh, it would be that. Because you look at the teams that have coaching vacancies, other than the one that now John Harbaugh just left in Baltimore. And now with obviously Pittsburgh, but we know why Harbaugh wasn't never going there. But for Cleveland, for Arizona, for New York, for any of these teams to be able to land John Harbaugh, the biggest fish, it's massive for a team that looks promising. Jackson Dart looked promising this year. If not for Bo Nix going berserker in the fourth quarter, I mean, Jackson Dart comes to Denver and wins. And I talked about this the other day when we were discussing Tomlin. Like, you have a situation right now in the NFC East, and this is perhaps why John Harbaugh has taken the Giants job. You have 3 other organizations that this year took a step back. Dallas traded Micah Parsons, and they can't win that trade unless they cash in with the draft capital that they got back. Of course, they got Quinnen Williams, which was part of it, but they got to finish the job here. and make the Micah Parsons trade worth it. You have Philadelphia now that is going to have to go out and find an offensive coordinator, or else they're not going to be any better next year. Washington took a massive step back, and they after 1 year of everything going right, they're now Cliff Kingsbury's given his walking papers. There is an opportunity here in the very short term. If John Harbaugh can get this team pointed in the right direction, we always talk about the worst to first teams. How could you not back the Giants to be kind of that team? One of the ones to go from a losing team to become a winning team and maybe win the division. I think that's the opportunity that is in front of the Giants next year. And then who knows? I mean, yeah, Washington's going to get back Jaden Daniels, but clearly you see that they have a lot more holes on that roster. Jaden Daniels was covering a lot up 2 years ago. There's no guarantee Philadelphia gets offensive coordinator right because they're batting less than 500 right now with picking these guys. They failed after they tried to replace Kellen Moore. And in Dallas, I mean, they've been trying to figure it out for going on 3 decades. I think that's why this job appealed to John Harbaugh, and I think this is why it is a huge get for the New York Giants and why this marriage now has the potential to put the Giants on top of the NFC East as soon as next year. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. We'll have more Drive Time Sports right after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Last call to get your votes in for our Athlete of the Week, sponsored by Blackjack Pizza and Salads. Jordan Rollins of Colorado Springs Christian, Dayton Albrecht of Fountain Fort Carson, Wyatt Kirch of Rampart, and Peggy Dean of Sand Creek are your nominees, all equally deserving, but you decide who the Athlete of the Week will be. Go to extrasports1300.com or kvr.com and vote. And we'll announce the winner on a variety of platforms tomorrow. It's our Extra Sports and KVR Athlete of the Week, sponsored by Blackjack Pizza and Salads. And over the last almost 2 weeks, you've noticed that we are doing things a little bit differently around here. Brave New World with this radio program. And then also another part of that is that Ray Dominguez is producing the show and will, like he's going to right now, in 3, 2, and 1. Hi, Ray.
Hi.
He will contribute to the show by reading your text.
Okay.
Go ahead. What do we got?
See if I do this right. This one here is from the 719.
Yeah, that's the way you do it. Good job.
Right?
Good start.
Yeah. David Adelman, Coach of the Year, coaching a second string to a 12-5 record without the Joker in the starters. Wow.
So what are we up to now? We're up to Jamal Murray All-Star.
Yep.
Although David Adelman said All-NBA the other day. Jamal Murray All-Star. Jokic MVP forever. Every year the Nuggets fans are. Tim Hardaway Jr., 6th Man of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton Watson, Most Improved Player. And David Adelman, Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
I believe that would be a first in NBA history if a team won all of those.
Like, give me an argument for anyone else.
For Coach of the Year?
Coach of the Year. Who?
What about JB Bickerstaff in Detroit?
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one, yeah.
But look, I would look at it a different way and say which of those do truly the Denver Nuggets deserve. Obviously, Jamal Murray deserves to be an All-Star. That's not a postseason award. I don't think Jamal Murray is an All-NBA performer this year. Let's get him to the All-Star game and then go from there. Jokic will not be the MVP this year. Mm-hmm. I don't think David Adelman ultimately wins Coach of the Year. And one of the reasons is because we saw this team perform and take OKC to 7 games last year with David Adelman. And so I think in a big part of Coach of the Year, right, is a team that underperformed and you make them overperform or something like that. But what David Adelman has done doesn't have to be recognized as a Coach of the Year because it's not going to go on long enough.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's happy about that Jokic will be back at the end of the month. But I said this when Jokic got hurt. We will find out how good of a coach David Adelman is.
Right.
Because we know they responded, but is it because Michael Malone and all of that junk with Calvin Booth is gone? Or is this really David Adelman? And now we're seeing David Adelman has to patch this lineup together on a nightly basis. So, yeah, I don't agree with the words. I don't think David Adelman will be the Coach of the Year. But what he has done with Nikola Jokic out from a coaching perspective is Coach of the Year quality. So I agree with the sentiment
I would say
of the texter.
Right now he's top 3. For sure. I would say he's in the conversation.
And you know what's funny? Michael Malone never Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Nor Jared Bednar never won either for the Avs. He's the other one. Some about Colorado and these coaches can never win Coach of the Year.
Is it hard to get Coach of the Year when you have the best player in the world on your team?
Yeah, it is difficult. And that's generally not, although we've seen coaches of the year with MVPs on their team. So maybe not. But look, the fact of the matter is David Adelman has done a phenomenal job, as has the players that he's empowered to get big minutes over this stretch, and the Denver Nuggets are not only surviving but borderline thriving without Nikola Jokic.
So would you, and one last, you said, would you put in a lock Peyton Watson, most improved player?
I can't think of another person I would pick.
No.
Right now. I could think of other Coach of the Year candidates. I can think of other MVPs. In fact, Luka was my pick at the beginning of the season. So I don't know who.
I can think of one.
For most improved?
He plays in Brooklyn.
No. Oh my gosh. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Your most improved player goes to Michael Porter Jr. Oh man, that would be something. No, that's a good call though, because Michael Porter's going to get some love for that. But it's so weird. You usually think about most improved being younger though.
Right.
But
I mean, he's on the potential All-Star right now.
Yeah. I don't know if Michael Porter is improved. I think Michael Porter is. I'm going to say this, and look, Denver was good to him. Denver took a chance on him when no one else did, all that kind of stuff. He's been freed in many ways out of the, as I mentioned, that box that fourth guy on the Denver Nuggets is kind of thrust into. So wouldn't that be something in Michael Porter? What if Michael Porter goes, and I know East-West, Michael Porter is an all-star and Jamal Murray isn't?
Wow. That would be a
Nuggets fans riot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. From 719. Did someone say the only thing the Bills can do is run the ball? Oh boy, they're in for a rude awakening.
No. And I disagree with the texter that said a lot of those things. But just to be fair, what he was saying is that because of the injuries to the Bills receivers, the Bills could be a little bit more one-dimensional, and I think he was also making a nod to the Broncos pass rush and making it very difficult for Buffalo to throw the ball. I don't think that's the only. He was saying the Broncos can make Buffalo one-dimensional, not that the only thing the Bills can do is run the ball. So.
Yeah. All right, another 719. Sean Payton's going to send out Smackdown Hit 2.0 on Josh Allen. Watch.
Stop. We're not doing. Wait, he didn't say Bounty Gate though, right?
No.
Well, that's not going to do that.
No.
But the Denver Broncos are going to hit him, and you've watched the Denver Broncos play. They do not lightly hit opposing quarterbacks. So, I mean, it's going to be a natural byproduct of the game, and it's the nature of the beast. If Josh Allen is not healthy enough to play, then he shouldn't play. He's healthy enough to play, and the Broncos are well within their right to hit him within the rules as much as they want.
And that's the nature of Josh Allen's, the way he plays. When he runs, I don't see him slide a lot.
No, and also remind me the last time Josh Allen had a scan and there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Like he's perpetually injured. He's hurt. As my dad used to say, are you hurt or are you injured?
Yeah.
If you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured, you can't. Josh Allen is perpetually hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to really bother him that much. But the Broncos will try. Again, he hasn't faced a defense like the Denver Broncos in the postseason. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a fun game.
Cinema is the word I used.
That's a great word.
It was going to be cinema. I will say this. Was that all the text?
Yeah.
One thing that we didn't discuss yet, the biggest X factor. What would be the impact psychologically on Josh Allen, knowing that his fiance and mother, soon to be mother of his child, is a Broncos fan?
Yeah. Yeah, that is Whew.
She's not from. So let me fill everybody in
Yeah.
because not everybody is continuously online like Ray and I are. Some pictures have surfaced and tweets. Tweets have surfaced from Haley Steinfeld. By the way, as much as I feel great shame for as much as I am online, I can at least hold my head up high that I wasn't deep diving Haley Steinfeld's Twitter to try and find. I mean, do you go into that thinking that you're going to find something, or are you just hoping against hope? Anyway, Haley Steinfeld, not Seinfeld. Haley Steinfeld has worn an Broncos gear and has openly cheered for the Denver Broncos. We have visual evidence that she, and what, did she go to a Broncos game? She must have been.
She must have been.
That must have been where the picture was.
Right.
Was at a Broncos game.
It was, I think it was 2016. She was dabbing. So I don't.
Dabbing?
Yeah, I don't know if that's
in a Broncos shirt. This has the potential to tear the Allen Steinfeld house apart.
So a reporter said she did ask Josh Allen about the photo.
Somebody asked Josh Allen about the photo?
Yes.
Okay.
So
what did Josh Allen say about the photo?
So asked Josh Allen about the picture. Sorry, one second. You know, internet just keeps messing up here. Asked Josh Allen about the picture. Come on, where you at? Give me a second. It's taken. It keeps refreshing on me.
And Josh Allen said, "That's it. We're done."
That's it. Yeah, he said, first you picked the Golden Globes over me.
Oh, he made a joke about it?
No. I'm just.
Oh, okay. You're just adding
here. Give
to
me
the
one.
bit.
I don't know what's happening here. One second. I will find this.
My guess is he wasn't angry about it.
Yeah. Okay. Asked Josh Allen about the picture. He told me he had no idea it was floating around. Laughed and said she was probably paid to be there, and that he definitely wasn't gonna bring it up at home. That was a reporter.
Oh boy. I mean, that it's not on the level of Nikola Jokic had a Nugget sweater in Serbia when he was a kid.
Oh yeah.
But this is pretty. I mean, what a coincidence.
You know what? Because you kind of have to look at it.
Because Haley Steinfeld's not from Denver.
No, and you know you kind of have to look at it now. Travis Kelce, we don't know. Maybe might not come back. So we need a new power couple for the NFL. And will it be Josh Allen and Haley Steinfeld?
I will argue. I believe the two of them have been dating for longer than Kelce and Swift have, yes?
I believe so.
What has stopped them from being that earlier? I don't think they want it.
I don't think they want because if you look at just the levels of Taylor and Haley.
Well, sure.
Right.
And the level of
Josh.
The Chiefs, and I know the Chiefs are Kansas, but they've been a dynasty for the last decade.
Yeah.
Which, as much as we talk about Buffalo not a huge market, not in the going to Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff. But I really don't think that I don't see Haley at a lot of Josh Allen's games.
No.
So now it's like you can't, right? You're not going to be able to compete with them.
No.
But I even think once Taylor and Travis are gone, that.
But I
don't think they will be.
Do you think there'll be signs of the picture from fans at Mile High? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Well, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? And it's all in good fun.
No,
we're not gonna. I mean, there are worse things to put on a sign or to chant at Josh Allen on Saturday than just to merely have a screenshot of a tweet where his fiance is wearing a Broncos.
Yeah.
gear.
And at the same time, do you want angry Josh Allen?
That's true. Everybody be super nice to Josh Allen and Haley Steinfeld.
Exactly.
And Haley is pregnant, so if she's coming to the game, make sure you roll out the red carpet for her. A docile Josh Allen is gives you a better chance to win. No word on whether Bo Nix's wife wears Bills gear in a past life,
No,
but
haven't
I'm
seen that
sure
one.
Bills Mafia is on the case. Although I don't think I could pick Bo Nix's wife out of a lineup.
I don't know what she looks like.
I don't either.
No.
So good luck, Bills Mafia. You got your work cut out for you, but you do have less than 48 hours. And that concludes the TMZ portion of the program. Haley Steinfeld, secret Bronco fan. Somebody needs to ask her. Was it Golden Globes the other day?
Yeah.
The timing is just off.
Yeah.
Because Haley was a presenter.
Yeah.
If the picture would have leaked sooner, she could have been asked on the red carpet who she is rooting for this weekend. And she would no doubt say the Denver Broncos. I am sure of it.
Yeah. No. She 100%.
Just another, as if we explore all avenues, all competitive advantages for these two teams, we will explore. So, that's going around social media that Haley Steinfeld wore Broncos gear and openly rooted for the Broncos.
Yeah, again, it wasn't just like she wore a Broncos shirt.
Yeah,
it was. She said something like "Go Broncos."
Yeah.
I think there was a video of her dance, like getting excited about the Broncos.
But what year did you say it was?
2016, I believe. I could be wrong. I believe 2016.
Okay.
So not the best year to be a Broncos fan.
Bills Mafia, right? Bills Mafia would chalk it up to her being young and stupid, right? That's what Bills fans would say. So there you go. Chung chung chung. I'm gonna go get my giant, oversized cup to drink out of the straw. Ray Dominguez, ladies and gentlemen, he will be a regular contributor on the show as the producer moving forward. Take your thoughts if you want to get more text messages in. 719-247-1313. Drive Time Sports continues here on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Welcome back. Final segment on this Thursday. Good conversation today. Still time if you want to get in here at 719-247-1313. Thanks to Ray Dominguez, going to be my producer moving forward, and some of you have already met Ray even before. He just chimed in there because he's the one picking up the phone when you call 719-247-1313. So, Ma, I finally made it. I get producer. How about that? So John Harbaugh, again, agrees reportedly to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. I think it makes a ton of sense. The Baltimore Ravens at a very different stage in their franchise than the Giants are. I think Harbaugh, what Harbaugh brings to the table, what he did in Baltimore is exactly what New York needs. There's a lot of credibility that goes with the New York Giants, a proud franchise, a good brand that has taken some hits over the years in terms of how good the operation is there with Jackson Dart, with the defensive players that they have. They'll get their weapons back offensively. Malik Neighbors is who I am referring to, and Cam Scattaboo. I think the Giants have a chance to be very good next year. Now, ultimately, the question becomes, can John Harbaugh win a Super Bowl in New York? And I can't go that far. In fact, tell me the last time a coach has won a Super Bowl for two different franchises as the head coach. I don't think it's ever happened. Which this is not bringing this to the Broncos, but it is worth noting. But look, you figure that stuff out later. If the New York Giants get to the point where the Ravens were at with John Harbaugh, they'll be elated because they'll have multiple playoff appearances. Jackson Dart will have multiple MVPs. Like, it is a great get for New York. And I understand why Harbaugh wants to go to New York. Of the jobs that are open, that's probably the best one. I'll throw this out there, though. What if? Because we've talked so much about the stakes for the Denver Broncos, and obviously, why wouldn't we? But let's talk about the stakes for the Buffalo Bills. And we'll talk more if this all comes to fruition on Saturday. Is Sean McDermott safe if the Buffalo Bills lose? Now, it always, people say, oh, win's a win and the loss is lost. No, how you lose is as important as the fact that you lost. So we'll see how it transpires that Buffalo loses the game on Saturday, if that is indeed the case. But what if Bills lose Saturday with all of these other organizations with longtime coaches saying, you know what, good enough is not good enough anymore? Could Buffalo fire Sean McDermott? And does the fact that a certain long-tenured head coach that used to be in the AFC North, now that he's on the unemployment line, could that move the Buffalo Bills more in the direction of we got to move on with McDermott? From McDermott, I should say. Not move on with, quite the opposite. Buffalo loses Saturday. Bills fire Sean McDermott. And they reach out to Pittsburgh and say, what do we have to give you? What do I have to do to get us Mike Tomlin today? I mean, we could debate that that's truly what the Buffalo Bills need is a new coach. But, man, if you could get Mike Tomlin, and I know we said the thing about warm weather. Like, look, my entire life I have said that I would prefer to be in a warm weather city. Okay, but that's not above everything else. So maybe Mike Tomlin does want to go to a warm weather city. Okay, how about I hear you, but how about I give you Josh Allen as your quarterback? Would the fact that Buffalo is a little bit chilly be okay with you now? Now, this can all be back-channeled, right? But all I am saying here, not predicting Mike Tomlin is the new head coach of the Buffalo Bills when they open that brand new stadium of theirs next year. All I am saying is that either through back channels or closed door conversations, if the Buffalo Bills lose to the Broncos on Saturday, how could they not be discussing the idea and maybe taking some actionable steps to see if Mike Tomlin to Buffalo is feasible? Because if I'm Pittsburgh, I'd be just as good, making the Mike Tomlin trade now. I mean, there's something to be said for, waiting teams out and maybe the offer gets richer. I don't know. If somebody came to them and said, we're going to offer multiple, what did the Broncos give up for paying a first, a second, and a third? I mean, you think you're going to get a first, a second, and a third from, I know this has been an in vogue guy to throw out there or job to throw out there. You really think Tomlin's going to take the Vegas job? Tomlin to Buffalo. If Buffalo loses on Sunday. Wouldn't it be that crazy? Appreciate you tuning in to the show and the interaction as well. My thanks to Corey Roldan for joining me. Make sure you check him out tonight at 6 on KKTV for the first of 2 Broncos specials leading up to the Broncos and Bills game. Have a great rest of your night. We'll talk soon.